I think these guys are absolutely centered. They understand themselves so well that they know I'm never competing. So
what do you think is the mindset shift that we need to have to move us from side hustle to like business?
You know, when there's a saying around, God keeps on teaching you the same lesson. If you don't learn it, it will keep on presenting. So
that is so profound.
100%. Because I think how I usually talk to this particular concept is that it's almost like, I think success provides you little reflection. Talk to me about where we missed the mark. Maybe what we're doing now isn't where you are. What are you solving for at the moment? Where are you? What are the problems you're facing?
Oh, you know what you've just said is so loaded, and I'm so tempted to go in different directions. And the first one would be,
oof.
Hello, Resonate community, and welcome to the best and the biggest sales and entrepreneurship podcast in the whole wide world. As you guys know, we always have the best and the biggest guests on this podcast. Today, my guest is Sean Doom. He's the founder and principal consultant at Align, whose mission is deeply rooted in empowering individuals to unlock their true potential and align with their unique purpose. I need you to know, this word and this term align, you're going to hear it most of this episode because it's truly central to the conversation that we're going to have today. He has trained some of the top performing salespeople in corporate and entrepreneurship. He has served in the higher ranks of business development in various sectors for years. And today, he's here to download some of those insights with us. Mr. Sean Doom, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Such a privilege.
I'm excited
to be here with you.
Yeah.
This morning. What a cold morning.
Freezing. We are in South Africa in Johannesburg, and it is like, it's like ears are ringing from the cold.
Yeah.
Very, very, very.
I think it almost set us up for failure in a sense because we were meant to have this weather last week and it almost disappeared, and now it's here with full force.
Yeah, it's back again. Oh my gosh. But it's a good day to have a great conversation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So we kickstart the conversations to fire round questions because we want to get to know you a little bit more and kind of get your thought process. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So the first question is, what's something about you that most people would be surprised to know?
Oof. I'm a softie at heart.
Really?
But I feel like a lot of people know this though, because I live with my heart on my sleeve.
Yeah.
You know, I'm such a compassionate individual, such a feeler, an empath as such. So maybe if I haven't opened my mouth and we haven't engaged, you would not sense that from me. But once you get to experience me, you get to see, Sean is a softie.
Oh, wow.
He's such an understanding person, you know, such a welcoming spirit. So yeah, I'd say that.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
My second question is quite similar to the first, but in such an interesting way. And it's, if your younger self walked into the room right now, what would he be most surprised to see you doing today?
I think the level of maturity.
Oh, wow.
You know, I was an exciting, out there, trying everything type of young person, very outgoing. So I think the level of centeredness that one has reached and appreciation for people, relationships, you know, not taking anything for granted. I think they'd be like, hey man, is this you? And I think a lot of people that kind of knew me from my past life are pleasantly surprised and happy for me to have grown to the man I've became today. So I think that would be the biggest surprise. Like, okay, he's doing well, you know? Yeah.
So your younger self would be proud.
Yeah. That's
you can
exactly
say that.
it.
Like, it's like you'd probably walk in and be like, how did we get here?
How did we get here? You know what I mean? And I think that's the beauty of these conversations that we have and that people need to understand, you know? I think a lot of people, by God's grace, have the conviction to have the vision of their lives and where they want to see themselves, right? And that's like crystal clear for them. And some are just navigating life. And again, with God's purpose, you'll always end up where you're meant to be, you know? And it's about that, just getting comfortable with understanding that nothing is certain, you know, and that the best version of yourself will always prevail, you know? So I think that's the good thing that I've realized about this life thing and just the presence of God in your life and the prayers of those. You know, I think I always talk about my grandmother, my wife, my mother in itself, like people in the background that are always rooting for you and ensuring that you get to where you need to be. So,
I'm so stuck on something that you just mentioned, and that's that the best version of yourself will always prevail.
Yes.
That is so profound.
100%. Because I think how I usually talk to this particular concept is that it's almost like we're so intentional about ensuring the type of exposure we get, the people we have around us, making sure that it's always positive interactions, positive experience. Oh, I don't want to be in this toxic space because, it's going to affect me in a negative way. And I'm always like, what if that negative experience kind of teaches you something about yourself? What if you grow within that so-called negative experience? That's why I'm always an advocate for everything we go through in life is what needs to happen for you to be that best version of yourself. Those instances, those situations where you felt, I really didn't think I want to go through this, I want to fail in this way, right? Almost that's the anchor that kind of pivots you to where you actually need to be. And if that particular negative thing didn't happen, you would not end up where you are. So so I think that perfect version it's a growth journey, and accepting every part of you and every part of your life.
Sure. What's your thought on predestination?
Don't get too caught up in it.
Yeah.
It's almost like limiting, having a sense of, I kind of know where I'm going. It almost limits you when kind of God's trying to steer you in a different direction, or when the situation is trying to teach you something. You're like, no, but I need to be there. But why? What if you're not actually meant to be there, or that might not be the destination? It's just a temporary place that there is more to it, to where we need to go. It's the same concept that it's a recent, revelation that I've come to pertaining to success, for instance. There's always a outlook on how success should look like. And for me, it's a bit of a gloom outlook. For some people it doesn't land as well. But I've always said, for me, success, the most successful day of your life will be the day we meet our maker.
Sure.
The day you kind of pass on. Why do I say this? Is that there's nothing more you can do. There's no more reflection. You basically done. You're at peace. And that almost speaks to providing an understanding that never reach a pinnacle. Never almost think of that's the summit that I want to go to. There's a saying around, whatever summit you reach is almost the foot of the next opportunity that's coming. So that's kind of the idea there, that there is no summit really. It's a constant rediscovery, reevaluation, growing, pivoting, experiencing new things, to just better yourself continuously.
Oh. Ladies, wealth isn't just about numbers. It's about freedom, confidence, and choice. That's why we've partnered with SA Gold Markets to help you invest in something real. Leading up to Women's Month, we're putting gold, silver, and platinum bullion in your hand, not just as elegant assets, but as tools to secure your future. So whether you're a seasoned investor or just starting out, we're making it simple, stylish, and smart. Explore the Women's Day specials with easy to understand guides, limited edition coins, and gifting options for you and the woman you love. Visit www.sagoldmarkets.co.za and take the first step towards building wealth your way. Because when women invest, families grow. Now back to the episode. You know what you've just said is so loaded, and I'm so tempted to go in different directions. And the first one would be to pick your brain on something that I think personally has been going on in my mind. But also the other direction is just steering this towards alignment. And maybe we can do a little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
Alignment is the core focus of the work that you do. And what I want to find out from you to begin with is like, what is the cost of building without alignment? Do we even know that we're not in alignment when we start?
Yeah. It's such a difficult one to really almost. You almost see it in the experiences that present themselves. When there's a saying around, God keeps on teaching you the same lesson. If you don't learn it, it will keep on presenting. So I think that's almost the cost when things aren't going the way that they're supposed to, when relationships aren't, the quality of the relationships you keep, it seems like things aren't working out in that regard. So I think being able to, and that's what we do at Align, right? It's almost more a conversation where we facilitate an appreciation of yourself, right? A deeper understanding of who you are, right? I almost talk about falling in love with yourself again, because there's always this notion that I need to become something that I'm not. There's something out there externally that I don't have that I still need to ascertain for me then to kind of place value on myself, where we're saying that let's start with the self. Let's place worth on the self. Let's understand that, what, we all have a particular gift that we need to figure out and need to understand. And it's by reflecting, looking back at past experiences, going forward, and just keeping on being open to learning, right? So that's really it. So it's difficult to really ascertain what would be the cost of moving out of purpose and out of alignment, And I guess I always say you see it in that whole, I'm just not where I want to be. I'm not happy with what I'm doing. And that's the nudge. That's the, let's find that happiness. Let's find that peace. That's also direction. I always talk about that frustration is a form of direction. It's a good thing that's happening, that it's giving you a good sense that, oh, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. This is not where I'm supposed to be going. And almost getting to a point of reaching that level of synergy where I'm actually comfortable with this type of environment, with these conversations, with these people, and then growing in that.
That uncertainty you talk about can easily bring upon fear, because you are now being uncertain over something that you've been certain for years.
Yes.
And it's like now mentally you're seeking for newness, but what does that newness look like? How do you guide people to answer to that call of the uncertainty to then start aligning
with that? Look, I think fear has always been the root cause of a lot of things, and people not fully embracing a lot of opportunities, because I think it's the human body is designed to kind of shy away from situations, environments that it's not used to. So if I'm not familiar with a particular situation, I'm almost inherently inclined to try and avoid that, because it doesn't understand, what am I going to expect from this? And could this be dangerous? Could this be exposing me? Could this put me in a difficult situation? Where just allowing yourself the ability, or learning the ability to kind of push through that fear, and maybe looking at becoming familiar with the unfamiliar, right? And I always talk about this in my confidence classes, that when you see your Michelle, my wife, Palesa, when they ooze confidence, people always think, these people are born this way. You know what? These people have no insecurities. They operate on such a high frequency. And what I always realize is that these people intentionally choose to keep on pushing the boundaries. They keep on choosing to do things that at a point in their life, they never thought they'd be able to do this. But by continuously doing things that they were not able to do, they kind of get kind of familiar and comfortable with this new unknown zone, and they keep on just wanting to experience different things.
It's like we build evidence that we can.
Yes.
And I think what you're saying, the fear makes you feel like you actually can't. So you've got no evidence to substantiate the fact that, no, I can do something. And I was talking to somebody a few days ago, and I was saying to them, somebody who's built something successful, no matter how many times they fall, they'll always get up.
Exactly.
Because they've got evidence that they've built a great business before. This one failing does not mean much. It can easily just mean that maybe it wasn't the business that aligns, but they'll get another business, or they'll start something else. And that is such a powerful thing.
100%.
My heart has always been with teaching and helping people learn how to sell, right? And I know you also have quite a large background in the sales industry in terms of just training and application as well. What do you think is the mindset shift that we need to have to move us from side hustle to business? Because I think that's where that's where the mindset shift needs to happen, where when it's a side hustle, it's fun, it's amazing, it's the thing you do on the weekend, it's the thing you talk about when you attend Bryce or Cell group, because you're like, I'm so busy, I'm doing this. But now when you're in it full time,
it's a different story.
It's a different story. There has to be a different mindset. What do you think that mindset shift actually is like? And I ask this because for some people that are pushed into that shift, they learn that mindset shift years after mistakes, after falling, after potentially wanting to go back to corporate, just going through so many things. What is that mindset shift?
It's almost alluding to what you spoke to about, most successful people basing it on an evidence of success and things working out. And I always kind of say, sometimes don't always rely on having the evidence from the onset, rather. Right? I always talk about, have a conviction in what is the value that you're adding. Do you believe in truly whatever service or product that you want to take to market? Have you really went and understood what is it that I'm trying to affect? What change am I trying to cause? And is it valuable? But do I believe it? And if I believe it, then that is what's going to sustain me in the business realm, that I'm taking to market something that I know and that I believe is valuable in this way. And then the beautiful thing about the market is that it will educate you on what it needs. It will teach you. It will guide you. Oh, no, we don't need this element of it. We require this element of it. Or this is great principally, but we need it in this way. So it's that whole mindset you spoke about being fixed, right? So it's about really being fluid in your approaches to situations, right? Yes, I'm crystal clear on what I want to do and how I want to do it, but have an element of adaptability to yourself and know that it is going to change, and it's going to change for the better, and it should change, right? Because whatever you're doing, you're not doing it for you. And people experience products and services in many different ways. And that's one thing I've loved about the sales game, is that you could understand your product very well, understand the features, the benefits, and what problems they solve. And then you're almost so convicted and go into a room and almost share that. And then the person sits there and it's not landing for them. That's where you kind of have to pause and understand, Mr. Client, it seems like what I'm talking to you is not landing with you, and it's not invoking what it should. Talk to me about where we missed the mark. Maybe what we're doing now isn't where you are. What are you solving for at the moment? Where are you? What are the problems you're facing? And then, given your understanding of your product, you can almost align it to those needs and just guide them to say, oh no, these are the elements that this can do the same thing for you. So adaptability, developing that sense of a growth mindset as well, I always say having a different relationship with failure as well, almost seeing failure as a gift. I talk about this a lot, in that I tell people, once you're done working with me, you're almost going to ask God to fail more, because you would realize what failure has meant for you and the clarity that it's given you. Because I always say, yes, success is good, but we learn so little from it, because it's a copy and paste exercise. Keep on doing what's working, right? But failure is so vivid, it's so clear, this is not working.
Oh, can you say success is not challenging? Is that fair to say?
I was having actually with a senior colleague of mine at one of the clients that I consult for. She's so deep rooted in success and doing well, and have done, and she's done well all her life. And when I presented this concept to her, I could see the cringe, and she's like, "No, what do you mean by that?" And she also, I think we brought it back to reflection on either way. You know what I mean? Being able to reflect on success for you to be able to learn from it, but I think success provides you little reflection, because it seems things are going according to plan, right? But when things aren't going according to plan, you're almost forced into having to figure out because it's not sustainable to fail, right? But being successful, it's sustainable. Yeah. So you don't spend a lot of time thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I asked this, remember when we were going this direction, I said, I'm tempted to take this conversation two ways, right? And this has been such a big struggle of mine. It's like, how vulnerable can I get on social platforms?
Yes.
But this community is my people. So I want to tell you about this scenario, right? And like, I'm curious to hear how you map it out.
Yeah.
So you were at the summit. We did the Resonate Summit. I think for me, it blew my mind. One of the
amazing experience,
biggest things I've done in my career for my business.
You did very well.
Thank you very much.
Well. Yeah.
Thank you. Amazing, right? But can you believe that I fell into a depressive state after the summit?
Really?
Yeah.
Is
like
it? Okay.
it's like I just fell off a high. Like it was just, I went through just like and I think after a while and investigating and having several conversations with my husband, it's like I went through the now what phase.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Because we had spent months building up to this thing and the stress, that adrenaline of counting down, and then the thing happens.
And
then after that, you're like, it can't be business as usual.
Yes.
Like what is the thing?
Yeah.
And I'm curious to just pick your brain around. I mean, obviously you probably need so much time to think about something like this. But at the back of your mind, when we accomplish these big milestones. And it's so big, you're proud. You know it did what it was supposed to do. And it can always be better, but you're just like, Lord, I'm grateful. But there's a sense of, now what?
Yeah.
It almost feels like you opened a new dimension, but now you don't know what to expect in the direction that you've opened to.
Yes. I think for me, I would have asked, what did that experience teach you, right? And also the question is, what was the objective with the day
Yeah.
and the summit in itself? Like, other than what it meant for you and what it did for you personally, but what was the vision and the impact that you were intending for it to have, and reflecting on the feedback you've been getting from the summit, right? And then understanding that it doesn't have to be a once-off occurrence if the feedback aligns with what the vision was, right? And then it automatically becomes, oh, okay, this was received quite well, which means people are looking to hear more. And then having a platform of subject matter experts giving comfort and guidance to an audience around particular things is a sought after thing, because people always want to almost reaffirm and reassure their ideas and themselves and the way they're approaching situations. So if there's someone out there at whatever capacity that can give them that reassurance that, you know what, me and you are the same individual, me and you started at the same place. Oh yes, the path that you're on is an understandable path. Maybe add this, maybe add that. So I think that would be how I'd look at it. But I think I'd want to understand what made you, what didn't live up to the experience, right? Like what kind of it almost like, I don't know, I associate like depression with almost like it didn't meet the need for you in a way, or maybe unpack that a bit. Like what would have led to you feeling that, I'm not happy with this, or I would not know what now to do, because to me it's so clear given how I would have interpreted the experience,
So I think the experience in its own and the build up to that was more than I could have ever asked for. But what I think it opened up to me, and tying to the core of the work that you do, what I think it opened up to me was how much of in alignment I was with the call I believe is on my life. But what the summit did for me, it's like it opened up a new dimension for me to realize that the standard to which the summit was delivered is the same standard required in everything that I need to do. So it's almost like I felt like I'm doing all of this to the summit, and after the summit, I can sit back and go back to normal. But then internally, it's like my spirit would not allow me to go back to. So it felt like, can I sustain that high energy and all of that happened leading up to the summit to everyday life? And feel like, no, that's too big. That's too intense. That's too much. It's almost like you had, I was writing a newsletter to my audience yesterday, and I was saying to them, the core feeling of what I felt at the time was that it can't be business as usual. It's like it's like there's an elevation that happened that after the summit I felt like I wasn't ready for. And that's like, I thought I was just doing a summit. And we are leaving it there, but you're realizing that no.
Why now? You touched on something, and it reminds me of what my wife usually says, in that from a speaking perspective, it shouldn't become a performance, right? So I think it's my perspective that I would have taken there is expecting excellence or wanting to deliver excellence and living in a spirit of servanthood. You can adopt that in your life, right? And it's about, for me, is excellence is what you define it to be, and serving is what you define it to be. Yes, at that level and at that scale is not always feasible, and you can't always do it in that way. But understanding that, in every person that I'm going to meet with, I'm going to serve them. I'm going to demand a level of excellence by, either punctuality, how I present myself, how I'm going to, be in that type of interaction, which can almost complement the level of what was experienced on the day, right? And then you can almost implement that into your day-to-day life, not it becoming, maybe feeling like I need to like almost perform my life, and my life needs to become the summit type thing. It's more of okay, let me then, the summit, the mindset and the idea behind the summit was a platform, a community. It was serving. It was a communication of how to be excellent in that regard, right? And then you could do that in your personal capacity by just how you live and how you interact and your intentionality to situations, how you present, how you show up, So that's how I would look at it, and just realigning with that perspective on, okay, what was meant with the summit, right? And that meaning and that purpose, that vision, how can I incorporate it into my day-to-day life? If the intention was to improve people's lives and to better and to give people a perspective that as an entrepreneur, these are the lessons that can improve what you do. I could do that in my personal capacity, right? And then afford yourself as you do and as you have, right? This platform, everything else that you do, your social media platforms, the framework there is the same.
Yeah.
You are creating a community for people to come and ask questions and find a sense of reassurance. You are guiding them on this is how to do things better. So, you know, that's, I think you're doing it quite well. I think it's that thing again that we do that I have an expectation of how it should look like. Where else the reality of it is that I'm living in that. I might not feel that I am, but my reality is I am an excellent person. I am a person of purpose. People, when they experience me, I serve them in whatever capacity that I can. I leave them full, you know, and that was what the summit was all about.
Sure,
you know? Yeah.
Oh, that's so profound. And I think that gives me so much clarity into the feeling and just making it so tangible and applicable. You mentioned something about applying some of those things that we did at the summit into daily lives. And one of the things I know that is also one of your core focuses is leadership and teams, right? I think every entrepreneur, you start as a one-man shop 100%. And then when you expand, you start getting people in.
Yeah.
How do is there a framework that you use at Align to help entrepreneurs get team members that align with their culture and their vision? And how do you know that this particular person is not aligning with, they could be great in their own right, but maybe just not great for this organization. How do we get to that point? We've also spoken to a lot of entrepreneurs on the podcast, and that seems to be quite a big struggle. You know, we spoke to Austin Malema, and one of the things he mentioned was how difficult it is just to manage people. And sometimes you hire people close to you and you think, oh, we're going to work. So they get it. And you realize, no, that's where the big problem is. How do we deal with that?
Yeah. I think, you know, from a people management perspective, I think at times we expect so much from an individual coming in to almost align immediately with the vision, understand what we're doing and why we're doing this and where we are going, and almost take on this workspace as you know, this is where you are and now be entrenched in this, make this a part of your life, you know, be invested, you know, in what we're doing. And I always say that, look, you have to allow time and take people on a journey, educate them on where you're going, you know. Think about your corporate experience. Think about when you joined a company and leaders that had an impact on you. Is a leader that was not saying that, okay, you have an experience, you have an understanding, you've been brought on to do a particular job. I'm expecting you to know your job, so do your job, right? I'll take the approach of, as great as you are, right? I'm still going to empower you. I'm going to pour into you. I'm going to get to know you, where you are, your concerns, you know, and take you on a journey, like a ramp up period where I'm empowering you to become a better version of yourself. Create an environment where this is not a hierarchical system. Yes, we want to be effective, right? We want to know that once something has been assigned, it will get done, but provide context, clarity, comfort, create room for people to be able to fail, but fail quickly and learn from from the failures that they've had. But it's almost like the environments we create, we expect people to hit the floor running without having provided them the support that is required, even though, yes, they've presented themselves as someone that is capable and able, right? But understand as a business leader, understand as somebody that is truly well-versed in whatever it is that they're doing, you would still need to empower that individual. So for me, empowerment almost sets up a great tone for the type of relationship you're going to have with your individual, and then get to know your people, right? Continuously, so to say, why are you here, right? Why are you doing this? You know, what's the purpose behind you working for us and you wanting to be here? And yes, in the interview, you can make it about what drives you. Is it your family? Is it you wanting to learn? Is it you wanting to grow? Is it just you wanting to be self-sustainable? What is it? Then once you understand the individual at that capacity, you are able to almost, the goals that you set would then speak to them. Because a lot of what's happening in a lot of companies is that people are driving goals that are not aligned to them, right? You have I'm expected to do this because it's my KPI, but it speaks nothing to me.
Wow.
Hence, you know, when it's 5:00, I close the laptop and I go home, you know, or if a client responds I'm not invested in the business because the business has not taken the time to understand me and where I'm at. And that obviously, it's the type of leadership you have in your business. It's the intentionality of the business to ensure that we're walking with our individuals in terms of the journey where we're taking them on, right? And we're also trying to understand where they're at and what is it that they need to be able to effectively do what they do, right? And then get them to a place where give them the autonomy to then prove to themselves that they can do it, right? And if it's not working, that's also good.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing to be let go of a company, to be sat down and told, you might be a square in a round space, right? So maybe this environment is not for you, right? Maybe this is evidence enough that how we do things, our environment, where we are going is just not speaking to you, and accept that and take that on and say, yes, thank you for that feedback, and I'll take the learnings and I'll go and apply myself maybe in a different environment. So that's also good, know? So let's empower people. Let's give clarity and context to our expectations. Let's get to know where our individuals are and have they fully understood what we're expecting them to do, and check in. Let's have regular check-ins to make sure that people are clear and know where they're going, and also obviously as a leader, you'll be able to assess whether, the person is also in a good place in terms of just being effective in what they need to do, right? And also being able to spot it to say, you know what, you're not performing as you should. You don't seem to be, invested in where we're going. So, yeah.
That's interesting. And what I'm thinking about as I'm taking in what you're saying is sometimes the thought, or rather the feeling of wanting to get to know them better and having the conversation can easily make one feel like they are building almost like a relationship with the other person, a close-knit relationship that could backfire and turn sideways as time goes.
Okay.
So where do we draw the line with, like, is there even such a thing as overfamiliarity, especially in a space like that?
Yeah.
So where do we draw the line with, I want to get to know my team. I want to be there for them. I want to kind of then essentially know what aligns with them.
Yeah.
But also I don't want to create friction because now we've developed a close friendship and now they can no longer take instruction.
I've always found it difficult to lead people that I kind of don't know where these people are coming from, the challenges that they're going through, and I'm just focused on the goals that I'm trying to reach. And it's almost like I've seen how when I had a team and when I had members of my team and I almost aligned my goals to their needs, I just know it's almost like I don't have to motivate them to buy into the picture because I've created the scenario in such a way that it almost speaks to them, right? So I think for me it's also what would be worse for you, right? Being in a space where I have someone in my team that I believe is not effective or that's not good enough. That would be my perception given what I'm seeing, but almost has the potential to be exceptional. And we've seen this. How many times have we seen, oh no, they're not good enough. They leave, they become exceptional somewhere else. It meant that you didn't have the patience, to be able to get that greatness out of this individual, right? And I think that's where the value of really getting to know and growing with the person kind of helps, because you are more knowledgeable and you're the more mature person and you're the leadership team there, and that's your role. Your role is to guide, is to empower, is to teach, is to be what you never had at that particular time. And it's also to understand that this person is in a different place of their lives where you were at some point in your life. So understanding that, and it's easy to draw the lines, and people automatically also understand that, there are lines here, there's, boundaries to this relationship. As much as Michelle cares about me and the fact that I have a family, I should not confuse that with taking advantage of that. And once, personally for me, I talk about working on a demerit system, giving people the best version of yourself and allowing them to showcase to you how they interpret that, right? So you can automatically start, nudging it and toning it down as per how the person is responding to this. Say, remember, me getting to know you, me getting to understand who you are wasn't an opportunity to invite you to take advantage of this situation. I was trying to get a sense of how can I showcase to you that this business, as much as it's driven by profits and sustainability, we care about you as an individual as well. And that should mean something to you. And if it's not, then it means that we are not aligned on that particular value. And that's how we then start clearly understanding that these people are not a fit for our team and these people are fit, because the right individual will almost be drawn to that. They'll almost appreciate that notion and they'll automatically not want to take advantage of that situation. Yeah.
Because they see the value of it,
because they know I've been in interactions and experiences and environments where they're bleeding rocks here. You know, I am a number. I am a resource that just needs to deliver. And if I don't deliver, I just get called out on that. You know, I can't afford to get ill. You know, I can't afford to bury my parent. I can't afford to not be in a good space. I just need to be always delivering. And that's why this mental health conversation is so topical. Yeah. That's why all these things that are happening right now are becoming so prevalent.
Yeah. Sure. I want to jump into selling.
Yeah.
My favorite part of any conversation I have.
Yes.
What have you seen is the I'll say the biggest skill traits, if that even is a term, skill traits that very successful salespeople have?
Resilience. Resilience and confidence. You know, and confidence just means I believe in myself, in my ability, you know. So I think those are the two biggest traits that are required within the sales function, because you are constantly faced with apprehension. You know, people aren't always receptive, aren't always understanding, aren't always patient to want to know. So being resilient to know that, you know what, I need to be patient and understand that I need to take this person on a journey. You know, there's a client journey that I'm taking them on.
Yeah.
I need to understand what is their needs. It's not just a question of coming in, closing the sale and walking away. I'm going to walk a journey with this client, and you know, I can actually grow this client into more than just selling them this particular service on that particular day. They could become a much bigger client than what I initially thought they were. So that resilience and that confidence, I think it's.
You know, when you say that, when I was in the corporate sector, a colleague of mine, we're very good friends. He was a gentleman, and he was one of the top salespeople there.
Yeah.
But the quietest, most like hunching, like we used to sit in an open office. And I remember like he would literally, like he sat at the corner and I sat next to him.
Yes.
You would not know he's in the room.
Yeah.
You would even like forget that he's here.
Yeah.
And I used to think to myself, how is this guy making all of that money?
Yes.
Because he's, even when he speaks, you're like, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
And he's like, bring your chair here, let me show you what to do. And he, like, you know, when I started at that job, he was the one that used to help me. And I think that really changed the way that I think about selling, because I had been in certain spaces and certain environments where for you to sell, you had to be like boisterous and loud and macho and all of these things. And just seeing, I thought to myself, clearly, like, there's something he's doing here. Because he's selling so well. When you talk about resilience, because I think sometimes people can, and I've heard this a lot, it's like, I'm an introvert, I can't sell. You know, I don't know how to speak like this or to speak like that. Besides resilience, is there like a specific character trait that you've picked up be so common within the people? I mean, one of the traits that you mentioned earlier was, you know, just being able to get up and go despite building the evidence is one of them. But what are the other like small little things we can say? Because I want the person listening to identify themselves in, okay, I think there's a tiny bit of this in me. I can also walk my way into stepping
100%.
out.
Just to touch on your colleague, and before I answer your question, it's the notion around quiet competence, right? And there's this, I talk about, it's one of the myths that I cover in my confidence building classes, that you don't have to be an A-type personality to showcase confidence. And I think we see this in other disciplines like martial artists or people that are trained in a particular trait that are dangerous in that sense, right? You'd never see them overly feeling the need to showcase what they can do. In fact, they avoid situations that they can do that. So almost that speaks to that, to say you don't have to be always on the front foot and showcasing and being the loudest person in the room, right? So I think a trait that someone that wants to be great at sales would have to develop, and it's that ability to have a growth mindset, right? To understand that, you know what, it's not about being perfect of the bat, right? I'm going to go through experiences that are going to teach me how to do this better, right? There's no perfect way to go about articulating a value proposition. And in engaging with a client, one of those things of understanding that I'm not going to go into this interaction with a preconceived notion of how I want it to go, right? I'm going to go in there, yes, having an understanding of this is the value that I'm looking to bring, but being open to learning and pivoting from what the needs that I'm being showcased are on the day, right? So that bit, it almost speaks to that. You need that tenacity. You need to be able to, I think it will go back to that resilience piece, but I'm going to talk to it more from a growth mindset perspective, in being able to realize that, look, I'm learning, I'm adding to myself, I'm pivoting, I'm understanding this better, and then your ability to, learn as you go, being a quick study of situations, and as the situation and the interaction showcases something to you, being able to quickly take that on and almost amplify your service solution. That financial services is speaking to me in this context. That then elevates what I do. So my next engagement is going to be elevated in that sense. You're almost going to preempt that and lead with that in a way and add it to your service offering to say, you know what, we found through engaging this particular, and research as well, being able to study and understand and be a student of learning, that continuous improvement, right? I think those are all those traits that great salespeople have. They're never stagnant. They're constantly improving. Failure for them is something that they take on quite well. It's almost like, and optimism is another one, like this hopeful optimism that the next call will be better. The next client will understand. It will land with someone. I think that is some of the traits that the greats have.
As I'm taking in what you're saying, what's coming to mind is the underdog. And I have an interesting little story. I have a friend of mine whom we've had on the podcast. I'm not going to mention his name. And I always say to him, you can't be an underdog forever. I'm like, I think your days of being an underdog are done. You need to come out. And I think that people can easily be caught up in being like the quiet, shy, but successful, not successful, but, thriving or moving towards something. And I'm curious to know, can people be underdogs forever? Like what? I mean, I'm very intrigued in the whole concept of being an underdog, but maybe because of my personality type, I can't be an underdog. And but when I look at my friends, I'm just always like, I think you must be an underdog, but then wrap up your time with being an underdog and come out.
Yes. I think it's the whole how coming out should look like. I think these guys are absolutely centered. They understand themselves so well that they know I'm never competing. So I don't need to actively showcase who I am. I think they operate from a space of, given the opportunity, given the scenario, I'll deliver. I think that's where they're at. And I think for us, I'm a lot like you in that sense that I'm loud about who I am and how I do things. And I take almost, it almost validates me as well. And it's almost constantly reaffirming myself that, hey, I'm great at this, I'm great at this, I'm great at this. You know what I mean? And for some, it's almost like they do it in a different way. You know what I mean? Once was enough to know, and then I'm just going to live in that certainty of knowing I know what I'm capable of, and I really don't have to showcase that, right? So I think particularly in any profession, even in sales, that for as long as the deliverables are there, for as long as you're closing the deals and you're making, the money and the commission and whatever it might be, and you're comfortable with that, you don't actually need to be loud about it and showcase it, unless it does not feed you in that way. Maybe for them, their awareness of the deal has been closed and them knowing that the deal has been closed is enough. For us, I need the people around me, my team, the world to know that the deal has been closed. You know what I mean? And that almost solidifies it for me. So it's just a different level of, I would say, emotional intelligence that they add. Not that the one is better than the other. It's just naturally who you are, right? That's how I would look at it.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
What work do you do around peak performance education? I was very intrigued by that. What does that mean?
Yeah. It's almost a sense of understanding with the business in terms of what are they looking to do, right? Really clarifying and helping the business understand, okay, what does bad look like, right? What does good look like, and what would great look like, right? And then what do we then do to get someone who's a bad performer to be a good performer and a good performer to be a great performer, right? It's understanding that. It's more of a needs analysis from a business perspective as well as from an employee perspective, and understanding what are the challenges you've been facing pertaining to whatever it is that you do, and how can we support you to get yourself to the next level, right? And that's what peak performance training is all about. It's an understanding of what are the current developmental areas. Is it a technical skill that needs to be refined and improved? Is it a particular soft skills that we need to work on? We work on that, because ultimately then it gets to you operating at that peak level. Once we've helped you understand that this is what we are going for, these are the goals, and this is how the goals look like, and taking you through, empowering you to be equipped to reach those goals, right? And then obviously, again, once you start building that evidence, realizing that you can, it almost you become accustomed to performing and operating at that great level.
What are the top 3 mishaps that you see in struggling businesses or struggling entrepreneurs?
Product market fit is one. We spoke about it earlier that, we're convicted in what is it that we're doing? We know that it works on principle, but it's just not landing. And how do we pivot that? That's, I think, one of the struggles. Secondly, not empowering the people that the resource, one of the most important resources in their business, right? And then lastly is support structures, right? Just not collaborating enough, feeling the need to be the front runner and being the best at what I do. And I don't want to work with others because I don't want to share my trade secrets. And, there's this thing. Yeah. It's a real thing. And I mentioned this, and, it's a company that I'm thinking about right now. It's such a great relationship that we have. But I'm always almost trying to nudge them in the direction of, people can't steal anything from you, really, if you think about it. And there's so much value in collaborating with others, and that you get exposed to their brand and how they do things. We learn, we grow, and to the market, we also come across as, wow, okay, these guys are, open to doing business with everyone, and, they're empowering the market in that sense. And you know what I mean? There's so much value that comes from that. So I think struggling businesses is, people aren't investing in their people. You know what I mean? It's that thing where, again, we're not collaborating enough as a business with other businesses, because that's how you kind of grow, in that sense, being able to partner with the right institutions, having the right people in the company, taking your business forward. So I think those would be some of the elements.
Yeah. You touched a lot, I think, throughout our conversation on the supporting, the collaboration and the support. One of the things that you mentioned first was product and market fit, which is essentially what is a big identifier for failing business. How have you managed to help these businesses meet or just get over that? Because I do come across that very often with some of our club members and you can this product is great. This service is so good, but it's just not landing to the person that needs to pay for it.
Exactly.
How have you helped them mitigate that?
Yeah, I think it's about, again, let's go and reestablish. Let's go back to the drawing board and understand, okay, what's been the feedback we've been receiving? It's almost like it's product market fit at times. It gets to a point where we've not been pivoting. We've not been listening to what our clients are telling us about our product and solution. So I'd start off with that to say, okay, we've not been making sales. Why is that? Right? And what is our sales process? How are we going about this? Okay, what does our product do? Does it actually deliver? You know what I mean? Just let's go re-understand our product and make sure that from our side, we've ticked all our boxes, that it's where it's supposed to be, it does what it's supposed to do, right? And then let's go look at the process and understand, what process are we following to ensure that we articulate this? What are the touch points? And in that process, what's been the feedback? What are people saying? Is it a timing thing? Is it a cost thing? Is it a thing where for them in their world and in their environment, it's just not landing in this particular way? There's so much value in that. So it's about reflecting on the current process of how you've been doing things and what you've been doing and what you've been saying, right? And how that's been landing and what the feedback that is. And then redefining that for you to say, okay, let's go and redefine what is it that we are particularly looking to do. Maybe there's a different way to articulate this, right? Your membership, for instance. I don't know what you base it on, but for me, the value as that I see is community.
Yeah.
It's a platform to learn. It's exposure, right? And how do I then articulate that to a potential entrepreneur? Sign up to this membership should you feel overwhelmed, for instance. You feel that you lack support. You feel that no one understands you. We've created a platform and an environment where you are amongst like-minded people that are facing similar problems, right? Secondly, you've been looking for the right collaborators at the right level. Our members are exceptional business people in their own right. Opportunities to collaborate in this sense, right? So I'm just making it that if, let's say, your particular membership wasn't landing in according to how I would redefine it in that way. Let's understand what we were doing and how we're doing it. Let's rearticulate that. Let's then go look at the feedback that we've been getting from, the people that we've been speaking to. Or the age-old sales trick is that the numbers don't lie. Are we speaking to enough people? You know what I mean? I could have spoken to only 10 people and 10 people didn't buy, and I'm saying, I don't have product market fit. But is that really not having product market fit? Let's go look at those numbers as well. How many people have I spoken to? What's the reach? It's a reflective process, and then looking at what's not worked and refining it and getting it better.
Alex Hamosi shared this in his book initially, and in one of the platforms, and it changed my life about a year and a half ago. And it's basically a story that he tells about going to lunch with one of his billionaire friends that are well known.
Yes.
And he tells his friend that, I'm putting out this product and this is what I'm doing, but it's just not hitting the way that I imagined it would because of how valuable it is.
Yeah.
And that person asked them, like, how often do you post? And he said, well, probably like 3-4 times a day. And then that person said, well, I literally put out at least, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember the exact number, at least 70 pieces of content a week.
Yeah.
And the lesson behind it was you're doing the right thing, but very little of it.
Yes.
So if you've got the right product, you've got the messaging, you've got the right marketing, but you're just doing it to 10 people.
Exactly.
When you could be doing it to 100 so you can get 10 to buy and start increasing your conversion. And that for me blew my mind. Yeah.
No, it's one of the things that the more you dial, the better your opportunities get at getting through to the right person. There's a client now that I'm servicing into the US market, and the US market is quite a tenacious market. And I remember I had to do about 140 cold calls to get through to an individual and for them to be willing to engage us, right? And again, it's just the nature of the game. And another thing with sales is that let's be clear what a conversation looks like. An attempt to dial someone and someone does not pick up, it's not an attempt, right? Have I actually had conversations? How many conversations have I actually had? How many presentations, like you would say, have I done to a particular client? So I think the rule of thumb is 20 to 1. For every 20 presentations, one will buy. And again, it speaks to the numbers. So if I want 100 people to buy, you could do the sum as to how many presentations I would need to make.
And it's also numbers and time. Hey,
spent,
I was speaking to one of my mentors on Sunday, and he was saying to me that surprisingly, they're just suddenly getting business that they've pitched for like 5 years ago, 2 years ago, that they've been chasing. And only now it's coming. And that for me was just a reminder of like, I think sometimes we get so impatient. We just knock on the door and it doesn't open. We say, well, nobody wants to buy my stuff. And people are waiting for years to get business and pitching almost every year. To get that business.
It's something that I've learned as well in the game that, again, the timing thing. It's not that there's anything wrong with your product. It's just that, remember, with every business, there's so many other priorities as well that they're running at a particular time. And that in the scheme of things, what you bring into us right now is great, but it's not, immediate for us right now. And accepting that, right? And that's why there's the long-term nurture of a client, and not writing off any client, whether they didn't buy at that particular time or not, but staying in touch, engaging, following up, but not obviously being a rash, depending on where you left it, it being an every 3 months engagement. Even that first initial meeting, wanting to book a first initial meeting with someone, they might not have capacity to meet you, but be persistent. That's where that resilience comes into play, that, and again, one no from one person in the company is not a resounding no from the whole company in itself, find another advocate. Find someone else within the business that can advocate for what you're doing, that can get you then in the right rooms, and continue having that. Continue believing in the value that you add. I think we're quick to come back to our product and be like, oh, our product is not, it's not a great product. It's not working. So let's try find something else to do. Where else, it's maybe a bit of patience is required.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much, because then it also dials it back to the collaboration conversation
100%.
You started, where
100%.
if you're hell-bent on this being my client, the entire business loses, whereas maybe they will respond when George gives them a call because maybe he is a man and they will probably take him, whatever things that, whatever society wants to. I love that very, very much. That's like, that was a big aha moment for me when you spoke about the supports and the resources. I like this product market fit conversation, because I think it's very, very big and it's multi-layered for a lot of people in terms of patience. That was such a big, powerful point. And also just, one of the things that I've learned is like taking time to think. And I know it sounds so small. It's like, because I think we can be caught up in the doing, that we don't give ourselves the opportunity to actually think about the business that we're building and think about the things we want to build. So that we can start having the right direction.
Definitely.
That for me is like...
Yeah. And I think another nugget that I'd like to leave entrepreneurs with is we focus so much on our product and our solution and what it is that we are looking to present, when at times the most valuable thing is the relationship with said client. That's, I think, something that has been such a vivid revelation for me in my time in moving from corporate to business, is that the quality of the relationships you keep and the consistency of a person that you choose to be in low stake environments. Like understanding that who you are today and how someone experiences you today could either make or break you 5 years from now, right? If you are respectful, engaging, kind individual at a time that you were not required to be that, right? And you were consistent and you delivered at a time where you choose to now come back to that same relationship, you are remembered by that which you left them to be, right? So for me, for most entrepreneurs, for most businesses, is that let's try and see how could we lead with forming a relationship with the particular ideal customer profile, and through that relationship introducing our products as an added benefit to the type of relationship that I'm trying to add. And I think that will then almost improve the way we go about doing things and how we position our products. Because if I'm presenting a solution to you and I have an existing relationship with you, and then you kind of know what I stand for and what my values are, and that's how you build a relationship, by the brand equity you build through your marketing. What am I saying about myself? Who am I? What am I doing? And in going through that is then aligning on those. I'm based on this. This is what I'm driving. I'm purpose driven. I'm a Christian in this regard. These are my values as a company, that you lead with those. And then only trying to speak to people that buy into that. I talk about the difficulty of sales at times, that most salespeople kind of don't know when to walk away, right? And the knowledge of knowing when to walk away is understanding, firstly, having placed value on yourself and what it is that you do. Once you're clear on that, you then know that, you know what, I'm not aligning with this particular client in that regard, right? And, I'm seeing the red flags already when it comes to this, right? So it's from that discovery conversation already, you would know that it's not going to land. And you wouldn't further the conversation as well. Just given the fact that maybe if we don't agree on values, it would then mean that by the time I get you to what my product is about, you might also tend to not be interested in what I'm about to sell you, right? And understanding that, and also knowing if I've given you the best version of what I do and what I am, and that's not sufficient and enough for you, it's okay. Understand that I've not spoken to somebody that is interested in what I'm looking to do, and then walking away, right? So just developing that skill to know when to walk away.
Yeah. Oh, you actually answered the question I was going to ask you last, which was building relationships that align.
Yes.
Because that is such a key, powerful tool in some of the things that you spoke about here, in that collaboration and in that support and the product fit. I mean, leading up to the summit, one of the things I mentioned was that most of the people that were speaking at the summit are people I met.
100%.
I met Nomdeni at a job I used to work at over 8 years ago.
Wow.
Together with Mushabi. These are people that I met. I hadn't even started a big business or whatever. But it's almost like being able to build those relationships and sustain them becomes very key to the business that you want to build for yourself,
100%.
which is like super important. If there's an entrepreneur at the moment that is watching this conversation and they just feel like, you know what, things are just not moving in the direction that I want them to. I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it's the business. Out of the 3 things you guys just mentioned, I don't even know which one it could be for myself. I'm just in this state of mind that is disabling me from moving. As a parting shot, what would you say to them and how can they get unstuck?
Such a tough place to be when you're feeling stagnant, I think, I think the first place that I would take them is to almost develop a sense of gratitude to what is working. I think a lot of times we can get caught up in what's not working, right? So firstly, because that almost then you go into a rabbit hole of almost getting the thoughts that maybe I should consider closing the business, right? So get into a point of appreciating and getting a list of what is actually working and what are the positives about this business, right? And then, and then also not shying away from truly reflecting on what's not working and really unpacking that and looking at, okay, do I have the resources required to solve this particular problem that I've interpreted, right, in my own capacity, and then seek support, seek help, seek a different perspective, right? There are so many resources out there. Maybe it's the financial management of the business. Engage in a consultant that is well versed in that regard. Maybe it's the operational side and how we're executing. There's inefficiencies there. Engage with people that know how to do that better. And it's about, I think there's this thing that I've realized that a lot of entrepreneurs feel the need to do everything themselves. Right? They want to be the ones that are doing it all, right? And I think the common sentiment with most great entrepreneurs is that hire the right people and let them do what they do, and then you focus on where you feel you add the most value in this particular business. You might be the brainchild of a particular business, but you just get to a point where you're not even operationally involved. You're just more strategic and you're just maybe managing the people, you're getting the best out of the people. Just figure out where you fit into that business and understand that you don't have to do everything. So again, it's going to be a process of reflection, a process of acceptance, right? So firstly, most importantly, what's working, what's going well, right? Let's reflect on what's not working. And then in your own capacity, why do you think that's not working? And then do you have any resources to kind of tackle those things that are not working? And obviously, once you're clear on what's not working, it's so much easier to ask for help as well.
That's true.
And then seek help in that regard. Let's partner, engage, be vulnerable enough to seek help with those that can assist us and guide us, because we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's people that have been doing this, that have done it well, that have also pivoted and learned, that literally had the same challenge that you had 2-3 years ago, that are able to just guide you through it. And it's about believing that, there is someone out there that can assist me. So that would be my advice to someone that's finding themselves in a bit of a rut, in a low place, right? Firstly, let's accept and let's be grateful for what we have, and then let's try and action and work on what we can change and find the right people to help us.
Yeah, that's so profound. I mean, I'm writing so many notes as you're talking. And I think the big main thing for me from what you're saying is like, find clarity on the reality of the situation. Because I think the anxiety and the fear is, everything is all over the place. You are actually not clear about what the problem is.
Exactly.
But when you take time and just do some stock taking on what the problem actually is, you can then send a DM and say, Sean, please, can you help me with 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And if you can't help me with this, please can you direct me to the right person who can help me specifically with that problem?
Yeah.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's almost sounds so easy, but it's something that we forget a lot because we think, of course I'm clear. I'm clear with the fact that the money is not coming in.
Yeah.
It's like, no, there's a deeper problem
Yeah.
than that you need to actually be clear of. Oh, Sean, this has been such an awesome conversation. Thank you for joining me.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed this, and I feel like we didn't even touch the surface of like most of the things I had.
And that's the thing about this journey and these conversations, you know, and just in your closing sentiment as well, that what just came to me now as well is that even in that reflection, you might even realize that there isn't a problem. Maybe I've overstated my goals and I'm stretching myself too thinly in that regard as well. So maybe that's also, but yeah, look, I think these are interesting conversations, and I think I'm so grateful to have been a part of the conversation. You know, I also enjoy giving people their flowers. I think your platform is amazing. I think it's giving comfort to many people that need it. I think continue doing the great work. We appreciate you. You know, thank you for affording us the opportunity to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure and an honor to have these because I learned so much. I'm taking all of these notes for myself. I learned so much. Thank you. Oh,
thank you. Yeah.
Sean Doom, everybody, Resonate community. I hope that this conversation was as enlightening to you as it was to me. I think I've just been writing down so many notes because I've just had several aha moments of things that I think I need to apply in my business, things that I think some of you that are watching that I know need to apply in this business. And we are going to leave Sean's details in the comment section, wherever you're watching, whether you're listening. And if you'd like to get in touch with him and just kind of get your business aligned towards where you're trying to go, I think he's the best person to talk to. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me know also in the comment section, what was the big aha moment? Like, what was the thing? I've got so many and I'll probably share them on my Instagram and TikTok. Let me know what was your big aha moment. But with that said, we love you guys so much and we'll see you guys on our next podcast episode. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Ladies, wealth isn't just about numbers. It's about freedom, confidence, and choice. That's why we've partnered with SA Gold Markets to help you invest in something real. Leading up to Women's Month, we're putting gold, silver, and platinum bullion in your hand, not just as elegant assets, but as tools to secure your future. So whether you're a seasoned investor or just starting out, we're making it simple, stylish, and smart. Explore the Women's Day specials with easy to understand guides, limited edition coins, and gifting options for you and the woman you love. Visit www.sagoldmarkets.co.za and take the first step towards building wealth your way. Because when women invest, families grow.